Managing users within AirWatch is very simple. You have two options. You can create a new user that exists only in AirWatch, or you can import a user. Now, importing a user is highly advisable. One, because you already have that user created. Why not just allow that user to log into AirWatch with the same credentials? And two, why would you want to manage two separate set of users, one in AirWatch and maybe one in directory services, when you can just manage them in one place, directory services? So AirWatch has the capability of importing directory users into AirWatch and allows the user to authenticate with one set of credentials. They can log into their laptop and their mobile device, same user. Now, when you want to deactivate that user, you deactivate them in directory services, AirWatch will also remove that user's access as well. How you choose to authenticate that user is up to you. You can authenticate with basic auth using a username and password, directory services integration like Active Directory. You could use a SAML token or proxies to have a one-click single sign-on access. Just think about the right-hand side is going to be more difficult for an administrator to set up, but it's going to be more secure and easier for your end users. The left side, easier for you to set up, and a little bit more difficult and less secure for your end user. Not to say that username and password is not secure, but just think about if someone writes it down on a sticky, anyone can pick it up and then enroll using those credentials. Now, where can these users enroll into? They can enroll into a device. They can enroll into an application like Content Locker. They could also enroll into their self-service portal. So their self-service portal, again, could use the same credentials, and a user does not have to remember all of these authentication methods. Especially into an application, I have some customers, just to be honest, they don't even manage their devices. They manage applications. They allow their users to authenticate directly into an AirWatch application for content or email access. And again, this is not for everyone. Everyone doesn't have to use every feature that we put out. So if you can find a handful of features that really make your life easier as an administrator and also make your system secure, you've met your goal. So if you have content management that needs to be pushed down to a series of iPads that are in your shipping department, and you aren't interested in managing all your users' devices, you just want to have this content locked into, say, 5,000 iPads, well, that could be a great use case for AirWatch. And you can lock that content down, keep it from being sent out, or maybe a sensitive information inside of tech manuals. And you want to keep that information from being transferred to another machine or being sent out, and you want the ability to recover that information when needed and push down updated materials. Just think about trying to accomplish that with email attachments or some other method. And it's going to be very hard to secure that data. When we manage users, we have, again, those basic accounts, directory-based accounts. You want to go with a basic account as a testing user, or if you have a very small deployment, or if you just don't have Active Directory. If you're a mom and pop shop, you might not have an Active Directory integration just yet. Go ahead and create those basic users, and then you can switch over to directory services if you need to in the future. But if you're already using Active Directory, there's no reason why you shouldn't just import your directory users, allow them to enroll on devices that way. Now, one thing I will say is that we're not going to just instantly fix your directory users. If you don't have security groups defined and your users are all over the place, your Active Directory is a mess, you might want to clean that up, or maybe just create an AirWatch directory tree to import into AirWatch. Because you don't import your entire Active Directory tree into AirWatch, you could just bring in a specific group or a few groups. And if you want to clean up your users and maybe move some users over into some AirWatch groups inside of your directory services before importing them, that could be a good idea as well. All right, so how do we set up directory accounts? We need to go to the directory services system setting, and from there we can leverage our integration over the ESC, the Enterprise Systems Connector, to talk to a directory service sitting on your premise. Those users can come in over pretty much any major directory services, Windows Active Directory, Azure, Novell eDirectory, LDAP, Lotus Infrastructure, etc. Why do you want to do that type of import? Well, first of all, it would be a nightmare managing two sets of users. Have everything sunk by directory services. If you need to update a username, a password, an address, credentials, permissions, groups. You can do that from inside of directory services and then allow AirWatch to sync those permissions. Otherwise, you're going to be managing those users in two different places, and that's not a good idea. You can see here that there's the ability to create a user group. AirWatch uses user groups to group users so you can assign attributes to them. The reason why you want to do that is because there's not an administrator in the world that wants to manage each user separately by assigning applications, content, profiles, etc. You'd rather just say, here's my sales group, let's assign content to sales. Here's my IT ops, let's assign a network VPN profile to IT ops. And you do have a granular capability to remove users from those groups dynamically, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The way we create user groups is we can, of course, associate the AirWatch deployment with directory integration, but then we just need to sync certain user groups with AirWatch. And then you can determine if AirWatch automatically syncs new changes or you as the administrator approve those new changes. All right, so as a review, what are some of the benefits of implementing directory users over basic users? Well, directory users manage all your users in one location, directory services. Users only have one set of credentials for laptops and desktops and mobile devices. And you can already use an existing structure and groups and just import them into AirWatch. Now, basic users are an advantage when you want to create a test user very quickly, or you just don't have access to a directory structure.